So there was one yesterday because people are home and it's hard to record when people are home. But I'm back again to do another one, and yeah, it is Sunday. A sermon happened. That happened. It was cool. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. But yeah, things are going well. Things are looking up. I think. I think things are looking up. Guilt's riding me though. Guilt. Guilt's an annoying thing. It's weird. I feel like I'm getting ever better. I feel like I'm getting better, but at the same time walking. It's like every time I walk one step forward, I feel like I'm walking 10 steps back. I still want to harm myself. I don't think about killing myself. I just want. Sometimes I do. I don't know. Things are getting better, yet I feel like the same thoughts are coming up. I'm not giving them the time and patience of day. Like, it's weird. They're happening just as often, but I don't wallow in them. So I'm getting better in the fact that I'm not wallowing about them, but I do think they are just as frequent. In some ways, they're still just as frequent. They're popping up just as frequently as during some of my worst times, if that makes sense. Like, they're popping up, but they're only popping up. They're not popping up and then me thinking about them for the next minute, if that makes sense. So I'm not thinking about it as much as during my worst times, but the thoughts are coming up just as often as my first time, during some of my worst times. It's like, plus they're only flicks, but yeah. Life gets better. Because they definitely slow down, and sometimes things happen and then they return and then they'll ebb and flow, but life gets better. I know it doesn't seem like it in the darkness, but it does. You just have to keep moving forward. I feel like sounding cheesy, but I literally know it gets better. I kept pushing forward, and now it's better. It's hard to keep pushing forward, I know, but it does. It's that. And now, enough of that. Let's get into the Bible. Matthew 19, teaching about divorce. Okay. Now when Jesus had finished these sayings, he went away from Galilee and entered the region of Judah beyond the Jordan, and large crowds followed him. He healed them there. And the Pharisees came up to him and tested him by asking, "Is it lawful to divorce one's wife for any cause?" He answered, "Have you not read, He who created them from the beginning made them male and female, and said, Therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So they are no longer two but one. Therefore God has joined them, and let not man separate." They said to him, "Then why did Moses command one to give a certificate of divorce to send her away?" And he said them, "Because your hardness of heart, Moses allowed you to divorce your wives, but from the beginning it was not so. So I say to you, whoever divorces his wife except for sexual immorality and marries another commits adultery." The disciples said to him, If such is the case of a man with his wife, it is better not to marry. But he said to them, No, not everyone can receive this saying, but only those to whom it is given. For there are eunuchs who have been so from birth, and there are eunuchs who have been made eunuchs by man, and there are eunuchs who have made themselves eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. Let the one who is able to receive this receive it. Okay, so this is basically, if the wife's cheating, they're allowed to divorce, and that's the only time. But it's also specifically talking about the men divorcing. And basically it's saying divorcing is a sin. And what I think we need to understand is what marriage is. And the idea of why marriage is legal. Marriage is both a legal document and a spiritual being, that you are spiritually joined as two people, and to separate, so you're one person now. Spiritually, you are one person now, and to separate that is a sin. Like, to separate two people, what is one person into two people? Again, that's a sin. But that means the divorce happened. That means it's a spiritual thing, not a leak. But it also means divorce gets fuzzy because in terms of faith, marriage is spiritual, but in terms of the law, marriage is also legal. And it means that when one files for divorce, the one filing for divorce is normally not the one who divorced the couple spiritually. Basically, an abuser rarely divorces the abusee. That, I'm sure there are cases where that happens or whatever, and all more power to the victim. They were able to run away or whatever. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not saying it's every case, but like, the victim's normally going to be the one trying to get out of the relationship because they're the one in the horrible position. They're the one who lacks power. They're going to try and get out of the position and get them in a position of power so they don't get hurt anymore. But basically what I'm trying to say is, getting a divorce isn't wrong from a legal standpoint, mainly because if that's happening, then the other person's already divorced you. They've already broken their oath. They're already an oath breaker. And in some ways, what you're doing is actually getting paperwork to prove that you're not married because they've already made it so you're not. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. But yeah, that's basically what I'm saying. It also means that people are like, oh, we're better off as friends. And it's like, why did you get married then? Like, seriously, why did you get married? And also, if you're better off, who cares? Who cares? Work it out. Talk it out. Act better. Like, some people are like, oh, well, we end up better off. And it's like, yeah, well, then maybe you should never have gotten married in the first place. Did you ever consider that? And like, I get it. I'm happy for you that you divorced, but it's like, I don't think that's saying divorcing is good. I think it's saying that you should never have gotten married. That's just my take on that. Anyway, let's move on. Let the children come to me. But we're human, we make mistakes, so I suppose it's okay. And I suppose that's also where the hardness of heart comes in. It's like, why do most? It's because we're human and we make mistakes. That's why. Not because it is not a sin to get a divorce, but because you shouldn't have got married in the first place. In a way, it was a sin for you to get married as well, which makes everything all the more complicated. Because, yeah. And that's a good way of summing it up as well. Anyway, let's continue on. It's getting really long. Let the children come to me. Then the children were brought to him, and that he may lay hands on them and pray. And the disciples rebuked the people. But Jesus said, let the children come to me, and do not hinder them, for such belongs to the kingdom of heaven. And he laid his hands on them and went away. Basically saying, like, everyone's allowed. It's like, children are normally, like, especially in those areas of like, no, you're a child, you don't get adult stuff. And it's like, no, everyone gets it. Doesn't matter your age, everyone gets to be blessed. Anyway, the rich young man, let's continue on. And behold, a man came up to him, saying, Teacher, what good deed must I do to have eternal life? And he said to him, why do you ask me about what is good? There is only one who is good. If you enter life, keep the commandments. He said to him, which ones? And Jesus says, you shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness, honor your father and mother, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. And the young man said to him, all these I have kept. What do I still lack? And Jesus said, if you would be perfect, go and sell what you possess and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Come, follow me. And the young man heard this, and he went away sorrowful, for he had great possessions, and he wasn't willing to treat his neighbor as himself. Yeah, so much for keeping up the commandments, bro. Jesus said to his disciples, truly I say to you, only with difficulty will a rich person enter the kingdom of heaven. And again I tell you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich person to enter the kingdom of God. This is actually possible. But this isn't something that's actually impossible. This is something that's possible. The Eye of a Needle was a small door in walls that surrounded cities back then, and camels could go through. It was very hard for camels to do it, but they could. I mean, it's not saying this is impossible. Like the Eye of a Needle, like this tiny little thing, and camels can't go through them. That's not what we're saying at all. It was referring to something of the time that camels could actually pass through. It was very difficult to do, very hard to do. No one liked doing it, but it was possible. Like, okay? But it is saying, so it's basically, rich people can go to heaven, but it's hard. You have to be giving all of your possessions away to the poor. And actually doing it, not just these fake things. Like a lot of rich people fake giving away their money and they're not. It's like you have to actually be doing that. Also, probably paying your taxes on top of that. Don't like, oh, I give to charity, therefore I don't need to pay taxes. Like if you're if you have a lot of money, I think you can do both. Please do both. Like, it'll make everything a lot better for everyone else, and maybe we'll have functioning social systems. Like, seriously, why do rich people not want to pay taxes so much? Like, there is a reason social systems aren't functioning. It's because some people aren't paying their taxes, and it's like, ooh, and it means they have to increase the taxes for the low class. And it's like, that's not fair. Now they're struggling even more. Anyway. Yeah, so yeah, I finished that. And when the disciples heard this, they were greatly astonished, saying, "Who then can be saved?" Okay, I'm sorry, what? Then who can be saved? He literally just said, he was saying, the rich people, there are people who aren't rich. There are people who aren't rich. Are you thinking that people who are rich are inherently morally good? That's a mistake, because having money does not equal morals. No. In fact, in this world, it sometimes means you don't have morals, which is concerning. Our world sucks. Look at them. With man, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible. And it's basically saying, oh, also, yeah, everyone does sin. That is completely accurate. God is the only one who can actually save people. And when he's saying to them, it's not that he got, and it's like, you might be going, well, then the thing is, he wasn't entering heaven under his own power. It was just like, if you're not willing to do that, it means you're probably not willing to have an actual functioning relationship with God. If you're not willing to have a functioning relationship with God, then you can't get into heaven. You can't even have a functioning relationship with God. But because you would have to stop worshipping your possessions to do it, and the more possessions you have, the more you want to worship them, the harder it is to get in heaven. Like, if you're fine with giving away your possessions, think, oh fuck, I have a lot of trouble with that. I really don't want to get away things like, you see that? I made that. I don't want to give that away. I don't like that. And yes, it does say save me. The other way around, it says I'm fine. And yes, that was a thing. One thing to note, I wasn't suicidal when I made it, which is interesting, but I was later. But yeah, but I definitely wasn't mentally healthy. Anyway, it's like I wouldn't want to give away things like that. And I have a lot of other different artworks that I've created, and I'm like, I wouldn't want to get rid of it. Maybe that means I can't go to heaven. That's sad. Also, Van Teddy. Okay, this is getting depressing. Let's continue on. With men is impossible, but with God all things are possible. Yay! But then Peter said to him in reply, if we have left everything and followed you, then what then will we have? And Jesus said to him, truly I say to you, in the new world, when the Son of Man will sit on his glorious throne, you who have followed me will also sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of disciple. And everyone who has left the houses and brothers and sisters, left houses or brothers or sisters or father or mother or child or lands for my name's sake will receive 100-fold and inherit eternal life. But many who are first will be last, and the last first. And that's a very famous thing. And yeah, that's the end of that chapter. But basically, yeah, all of that was about. Start off with divorce, then going children, cool, and then finished off with rich people, not necessarily good. Rich people have normally worship money, not good. Give away to the poor. Be a good person. Be generous. Good social structure is good. Why can't we love each other? Like, why is that a hard thing to do? Why can't people be good? That's a thing to think about. People can't be good. I think a lot of people have trouble being good. Even people in the church have trouble being good and generous and kind all the time. Generous with time, generous with money. I have trouble with it. And I sometimes want to die because I don't know what to do. But there's other times where I'm like, the world sucks. I sometimes think if everyone actually just followed the Bible, we wouldn't need God because it would be easy to follow because everyone would do it. But then sometimes I think I don't know if that would even be possible. And I think the history of the Bible proves that it wouldn't be possible because they had everything and all they had to do was not eat a single fruit. And yet they did. Because we as humans can't help ourselves. It was always going to end this way. And I think that's the saddest thing of all. We were doomed to failure. Not because we're evil, but because we're idiots, really. Like, I think we're idiots. And isn't that depressing to think about? We genuinely don't know how to help ourselves. Capitalism sucks. Communism doesn't. Communism sucks. Socialism's alright, but it tends to lead to communism, which sucks. But I like socialism. Socialism's nice, especially with the democracy installed, but apparently it doesn't work like that. I think it can work like that. I don't know. Capitalism definitely sucks. Life's hard. Anyway, lots to think about. Discuss further in the comments. Bye!